Welcome to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe my YouTube channel. On July 29 last year, teenage killer Axel Rudakabana burst into a Taylor Swift-themed dance class at the Heart Space armed with a knife. He murdered Elsie, 7, as well as Alice De Silva Aguiar, 9, and BB King, 6, and injured several others. Rudakabana, 19, was jailed for life to serve a minimum of 52 years in prison last month. Yoga teacher Leanne Lucas, who had organized the dance class, was knifed 5 times while she bravely protected children as the horror unfolded. She was able to help several girls out and shield them from the attacker while she bled from stab wounds to her spine, head, lung, ribs, and shoulder blade. Speaking to the BBC's Panorama, the heroic teacher said, "I just knew that if I didn't get out, everyone was going to die. He was bigger than me. And I just thought, I need to get some help." So we all run towards the door. We were shouting run. I called 999 on the landing and I asked for the police. She recalled how the monster was grabbing the children before she shouted, "Who is that?" To Leanne's horror, Rudakabana then set his focus on her. "I just felt something go in my back. My brain just said he's got me," said the dance teacher, shaking as she relived the trauma. Once Leanne had escaped, she begged members of the public to go and get the children. She told how she felt her body failing her, while her mind was still going 100 miles an hour. The wake of violent riots across the country sparked by misinformation, Leanne added how she was scared of everybody. And still thinking it was all my fault. If I hadn't arranged the day, if I had never advertised in certain places, if I hadn't used that studio, she said. Another Southport killer survivor, a 14-year-old girl who has been called Sarah to protect her identity, has also broken her silence. Both Leanne and Sarah were treated in hospital for life-threatening injuries after the attack. The teen recalled how she pushed children downstairs to help get them out. "I thought that he wasn't going to stop until he killed everyone. I thought that he wanted to kill us all," she added. Leanne's quick-thinking colleague Heidi Little escaped uninjured after locking some of the children inside a toilet. And businessman Jonathan Hayes, who was working in the office next door, was attacked after he ran inside and bravely tried to stop the carnage. Meanwhile, Joel Verite, 26, told The Sun how he battled in vain to save the girls, describing the scene as something from a disaster movie. Leanne has previously spoken about the tragedy in a heartbreaking statement at Rudakabana's sentencing hearing. She said, "As a 36-year-old woman, I cannot give myself compassion or accept praise, as how can I live knowing I survived when children died? I spent many months thinking about the incident, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Just when I felt I could settle and try to move forward, the trauma of that day is now back at the forefront. I constantly see his face, new memories have appeared, and this will continue to happen for the rest of my life." Leanne said she has been affected both physically and mentally by the horror and has been left with scars that serve as visual daily reminders of what Rudakabana did to the victims. She also revealed how she had to endure 3 stays in hospital and undergo multiple surgeries. Leanne continued, "The trauma of being both a victim and a witness has been horrendous. There are times when I will spiral into trauma, and the effect this has had on those close to me is unforgivable. The impact this has had on me can be summed up by one word, trauma. He targeted us because we were women and girls, vulnerable and easy prey. To discover that he had always set out to hurt the vulnerable is beyond comprehensible. This comes after the heartbroken families of Elsie, Alice, and BB bravely spoke out about the tragedy earlier this month." Speaking to the Sunday Times, BB's dad cast his mind back to the horror. He said after hearing news of the attack, he thought BB might have still been at home safe. The 43-year-old, who works for HM Revenue and Customs, said, "We had given people BB's description. When that person came towards me, I could feel the blood drain from me, and I went cold. I knew she was going to tell me something. And she did." "Are you BB's dad?" As soon as I said yes, she said she had passed away. BB's mom recalled how she was in Marks and Spencer when her husband called to tell her. She ran outside and got into a taxi, which dropped her to the scene. When she heard the devastating news, she fell to her knees screaming. Also speaking to the Sunday Times, Elsie's mum, Jenny Stankham, recalled the unthinkable events. She and her husband David dropped Elsie, a passionate Swiftie, off at the class at 10 a.m. The parent of another girl in the class had offered to have Elsie round to play afterwards, and agreed to drop her back round at 3 p.m. Shortly before midday, Jenny got a call from the other mum who said, "Something awful has happened. Somebody stabbed the kids." Jenny bolted in her car to the studio, beeping her horn and running red lights to get through traffic. She abandoned the car in the middle of the road once she saw the chaotic scene, but police stopped them from entering. The parents were later told Elsie had died inside the studio during the attack. Dad David said, "No human being should ever have to witness what we witnessed on that day." Bibi and Elsie's killer, who also attempted to murder 8 other children at random, was jailed for life with a minimum of 52 years last month. Jenny and David have also spoken about the need for accountability after a government inquiry was launched. A hero's calling, the yoga teacher who fought the Southport killer. Maya Hart took a deep breath, feeling the stretch in her spine as she exhaled. She had taught hundreds of yoga classes in her life, yet this one felt different. The moment she walked into the Southport studio that evening, a strange energy filled the air, heavy, uneasy, like a storm was about to break. She had always trusted her instincts. And that night, they were screaming at her. The calm before the storm. Maya had been teaching at the Southport Yoga and Wellness Studio for 5 years. A former dancer turned yoga instructor, she believed in the power of movement to heal trauma. She had worked with veterans, survivors of abuse, and young girls navigating the difficulties of adolescence. Her studio was a safe space, a sanctuary. That evening, she was leading a class for teenage girls, part of an empowerment program she had started. As the girls unrolled their mats and settled into a meditative pose, Maya felt a chill creep down her spine. The door was locked, the windows shut, but something felt wrong. A moment later, the front door burst open. A man stood in the doorway. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in dark clothes. His face was gaunt, his eyes wild with an energy Maya couldn't quite place. But there was no mistaking the intent in his stance, the desperate bid for survival. The man took a step forward. The girls gasped, some instinctively stepping back. Maya moved to block his path, her voice firm but calm. "Sir, this is a private class. You can't be in here." The man's gaze darted around the room. His lips curled into a sneer. "You need to come with me." Maya's heart pounded. She had heard the reports, rumors of a man lurking in Southport, a predator who had already taken 2 women. The police had warned women to stay in groups, to be cautious. And now, he was here. She took a slow breath, forcing herself to stay calm. "These girls are minors. You need to leave, now." The man lunged. Everything happened in a blur. He grabbed Maya's arm, but years of yoga and dance had made her body strong and flexible. She twisted out of his grip and shoved him backward with all her might. He stumbled but didn't fall. "Girls, run," she shouted. Panic surged through the room. The students scrambled toward the back door, but it was locked. Maya cursed under her breath. The only exit was past the man. Maya had never thrown a punch in her life. But something primal awakened in her, something fierce and unyielding. She reached for a heavy brass incense burner and hurled it at the man's head. He dodged, but it bought her a few seconds. She grabbed the nearest yoga block and struck him hard across the temple. He reeled, cursing. "Go," she screamed at the girls. They darted past the attacker, running into the street. Maya turned to follow, but he recovered quickly. His hand closed around her wrist, pulling her back.